It began with a flash, so faint, so distant, that almost no one noticed. On July 1st, 2025, a telescope in Chile's Atacama Desert recorded a light that shouldn't have been there. A small, moving dot, cutting through the void between the stars, heading not toward Earth, but straight toward the sun. Within days, astronomers realized they were watching something unprecedented. An interstellar visitor, a cosmic drifter from beyond our solar neighborhood, crossing into our system for the first time in recorded history. They named it 3Y/Atlas. But some say its arrival was not an accident. At first, scientists treated it as a curiosity, another icy rock, a comet from deep space. But almost immediately, 3I/Atlas defied expectations. Its trajectory was unlike anything they'd seen, a steep, direct plunge toward the sun, moving faster than any known natural object of its kind. It wasn't looping around, like a comet caught by gravity. It was slicing through, on a path that suggested intent. NASA's early data described it as a hyperbolic intruder. In simple terms, it's not bound to the sun. Once it leaves, it will never return. That means it came from somewhere else entirely. Another star system, another corner of the galaxy, maybe even another reality of physics itself. Yet, as weeks passed, more anomalies appeared. The object rotated in an uneven rhythm, sometimes flashing bursts of reflected light, as if it were signaling. Its coma, the halo of gas and dust that forms as a comet heats up, didn't behave like a normal one. Instead of trailing away from the sun, it appeared to lean toward it. An anti-tail, they called it, a stream of material pointing the wrong way, breaking one of astronomy's simplest rules. Interstellar comets are supposed to be simple messengers of chemistry, frozen relics from the birth of other worlds, but 3I/Atlas refused to stay ordinary. Its brightness fluctuated erratically like a heartbeat. Its chemical signature, the way light reflected off its surface, didn't match any known mixture of cosmic ice or dust. Even stranger, the data coming from independent observatories didn't line up. Some telescopes measured it as the size of a mountain, others as small as a city block, and yet all agreed. It reflected too much light for something so dark. To some researchers, it felt familiar. They compared it to Oumuamua, the first interstellar object discovered in 2017, the one that behaved like a sail, accelerating mysteriously as it left the sun's gravity. Back then, Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb made headlines suggesting it could be alien technology. Now, 8 years later, 3I/Atlas was repeating the same strange story, only this time it was heading the other way, toward the sun. In forums and late-night podcasts, whispers began spreading. Why now? Why 2025? Why another interstellar visitor, just as the world's telescopes and AI sky monitors had reached global coverage? A theory emerged, one that scientists dismissed, but the internet embraced. They called it the Watcher theory. According to this narrative, 3I/Atlas wasn't a comet at all. It was a probe, a returning observer that had once mapped young star systems eons ago. And now, it was checking back. Its trajectory, a direct plunge toward our sun, wasn't random, it was part of a cycle. The idea came from a peculiar pattern. Ancient cultures across the world recorded stories about stars that return. The Sumerians wrote of the bright guest that visits the sky every 7,000 years. The Egyptians called it the burning messenger. And in Sanskrit texts, it was known as Agni Patha, the fire that tests the gods. For centuries, historians treated these as myth, until 3I/Atlas appeared, following almost the same interval. Publicly, NASA described the comet's activity as expected volatile behavior. But leaked internal memos from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, later published on anonymous message boards, suggested a deeper concern. The object's spin axis wasn't natural. Its rotation matched a geometric ratio, 1:3 pi, a configuration no random rock should have. To mathematicians, that's a resonance, a self-stabilizing form. To engineers, it's a design. The leak also mentioned an emission spike, detected in the 1,420 MHz range, the hydrogen line, the very frequency long theorized as the universal channel for interstellar communication. NASA never confirmed it. But the report vanished within 48 hours. Even more curious, ESA's solar orbiter was instructed to temporarily redirect its instruments during 3Y/Atlas's perihelion, its closest point to the Sun. Officially, this was to protect the sensors from radiation. Unofficially, insiders claim the probe had begun broadcasting on low-frequency waves. For every skeptic who dismisses these details as coincidence, there's a pattern hunter connecting dots. 3I/Atlas's orbital path forms an angle of 66.6 degrees relative to the ecliptic, the plane of planetary orbits. That number appears again and again in myth, geometry, and ritual design. Pure coincidence? Maybe. But maybe, that's the point. Because while scientists see chaos, ancient thinkers saw message and movement. In Babylonian astronomy, a body crossing the sun's path was considered a reset, a cosmic recalibration of order and time. And now here we are, in 2025, watching a rock from another star plunge toward our sun, as the world burns with war, AI, and climate storms. For conspiracy believers, it's too perfect to ignore. When Oumuamua passed through the inner solar system in 2017, it left behind more questions than data. Its speed changed inexplicably, as if it used sunlight as propulsion. And just as quickly as it came, it was gone, beyond reach. Now, with 3I/Atlas, the pattern reverses. It's not escaping light. It's diving into it. Some independent astrophysicists believe the two objects could be connected, fragments of a larger structure, or nodes, in a network built long before humans existed. Imagine this: a chain of self-replicating devices, drifting between stars, gathering data on every system they pass, each one silently syncing when they encounter a sun, not to destroy, but to transmit. As 3I/Atlas approaches the sun, it's expected to disintegrate. But some astronomers speculate it may survive, or even split, revealing its core. Solar observatories worldwide are preparing for the moment. Because if the object withstands temperatures that melt metal, it would rewrite what we know about matter itself. Others think something else will happen, that the comet's plunge could release particles that interact with the sun's magnetic field, possibly triggering a flare or a temporary darkening, a celestial heartbeat. And maybe, somewhere within that burst of radiation, there's information. Not random noise, but signal. The arrival of 3I/Atlas may not be the end of a journey, but the start of a conversation. A message written in motion, coded in light, unfolding right now above our heads. Scientists will measure, politicians will ignore, and the internet will fill with theories. But one truth remains undeniable. Something from beyond the stars has entered our system and chosen this moment to speak. And if the sun is the receiver, what happens when it finally answers? It's easy to think of 3I/Atlas as just a rock, a frozen piece of debris wandering across eternity. But the deeper astronomers looked, the stranger it became. The composition of its light didn't match anything from our solar system, not even close. Every comet, every asteroid we've ever studied has a kind of chemical fingerprint, the signature of the star system where it was born. But 3I/Atlas carried something alien in its spectrum, isotopes of carbon and oxygen that couldn't have formed near any known sun. That meant it came from elsewhere, possibly billions of years and light years away. When the discovery leaked into scientific circles, it sparked quiet panic. Because those isotopes weren't just unfamiliar, they were ancient. Based on early models, 3I/Atlas might be older than our entire solar system. 7 billion years. Older than the Earth. Older than the Sun itself. If that's true, then this object existed before us, and before almost everything we know. A silent witness to the formation of stars, planets, and civilizations long lost to time. But that wasn't the only mystery. Radar imaging showed its surface was unusually smooth, not the chaotic, cratered crust of a natural comet. Parts of it reflected light with geometric precision, as if made from some crystalline alloy. No one dared call it artificial, not publicly, but in the private channels of the scientific community, the whispers grew louder. Was 3I/Atlas really a fragment of random debris, or the remnant of something designed? A retired astrophysicist from the European Space Agency, who later vanished from social media, claimed to have analyzed the object's infrared profile. He found repeating temperature fluctuations that didn't align with sunlight. They pulsed in cycles of 11 minutes and 6 seconds, over and over, like a timed internal process. Cooling, heating, cooling again. He wrote, "It behaves like it's alive, or at least aware of its surroundings." His statement was quickly discredited, and his data sealed. But the rumor stayed. And soon, it began to merge with something even older, something buried in the collective memory of humanity. Across cultures, there are myths about the visitors of light. In Sumerian tablets, they are called Anunnaki, the shining ones who descended from the heavens during a time when the sun dimmed for days. In the Rig Veda, ancient Indian hymns speak of Agni's path, a fire star that travels between worlds, feeding on light. And in pre-dynastic Egyptian carvings, a single hieroglyph repeats, a comet drawn pointing toward the sun. To archaeologists, these are coincidences. To mythologists, metaphors. But to those who study patterns, they form a timeline, a cycle of return. Every 7,000 years, something enters our skies. Always small, always bright, always leaving a mark on human history. The Sumerians believed these stars of fire brought knowledge. The Egyptians feared they brought judgment. The Mayans believed they restarted the sun. And now, in 2025, as 3I/Atlas plunges toward our star, those same stories begin to sound less like legends and more like warnings. For the scientific establishment, the real fear isn't mythology, it's evidence. When data doesn't fit, the safest answer is silence. But silence, too, speaks. Several research centers abruptly withdrew their public data streams on 3I/Atlas in mid-October. The explanation? System maintenance. Yet insiders claimed the object's reflectivity had spiked dramatically, as if it had released a burst of material or something had opened. Around the same time, solar observatories across the world began detecting faint fluctuations in the sun's corona, localized rhythmic disturbances, not random turbulence but organized waves, like a code echoing across the star's surface. Was 3I/Atlas communicating, or awakening something within the sun itself? A fringe theory began circulating online, one that merged astrophysics with forbidden archaeology. It suggested that 3I/Atlas wasn't the first of its kind, but the last. That billions of years ago, an ancient civilization had engineered vessels, seed comets, capable of surviving the collapse of their home stars, each one carrying information, memory, or technology across time. A cosmic archive, scattered like pollen through the galaxy. Most would burn away, but a few would survive, eventually entering young systems like ours, drawn by the magnetic song of newborn suns. If that's true, then 3I/Atlas isn't a messenger. It's a survivor. A capsule from a species so old that even their ruins are dust between galaxies. Of course, no one can prove it. The official narrative remains unchanged. It's a natural comet from deep space. Yet, the language used by scientists has shifted, subtly, carefully. Phrases like unidentified structural stability and self-consistent resonance pattern have begun to appear in academic drafts. When researchers stop saying random, it usually means they've seen design. A few daring astrophysicists compared 3I/Atlas's rotation to the behavior of stabilized satellites, bodies engineered to maintain orientation for communication. It spins not chaotically, but rhythmically, aligning with the sun at consistent intervals, almost like it's syncing with something. What could a 7-billion-year-old object possibly sync with? The answer, if true, changes everything we know about time and purpose. Because if 3I/Atlas is truly ancient, it has witnessed not one universe, but many. It may carry within it the chemical record of dying stars, extinct species, and the memory of cosmic cataclysms we can barely imagine. And perhaps, buried beneath layers of frozen matter, there lies information, an encoded history of worlds erased from existence. Some scientists theorize that matter can store memory through atomic arrangement, like a hard drive made of ice. If that's true, then 3I/Atlas could be a message in matter, waiting for a system advanced enough to decode it. Perhaps that's why it came to our sun, to activate, to be read, to deliver what it has carried for eons. And if so, who was meant to receive it? Us? Or something older, something hidden within the heart of our own star? The most unsettling idea comes from a physicist working under a pseudonym known only as Orion's Mirror. He claims that every interstellar object we've recorded, Oumuamua, Borisov, and now 3I/Atlas, follows a vector that, when traced backward, intersects the same region of deep space. A dark corridor between constellations Lyra and Hercules, the source of a weak, repeating radio pattern first detected in 1977, the WOW signal. If his calculations are correct, all three objects are fragments of a single migration, ancient messengers traveling from that direction, separated by light centuries, arriving one by one, each passing closer, more precise, as if following instructions. Maybe 3I/Atlas is not a mistake of gravity. Maybe it's the final step, the last signal before contact. We tend to think of history as something that happens to us, something written in human hands. But maybe history has always been larger, written by the cosmos itself. Perhaps civilizations rise and fall like the flicker of stars, and somewhere, something records it all. Not with words, but with journeys. 3I/Atlas may be one of those journeys. A frozen witness, an ancient messenger, or a reminder that intelligence does not belong solely to the living. Because if this object was made, if it was sent, then its creators are beyond comprehension. And if it wasn't, then nature itself is far stranger and far more deliberate than we ever dared believe. At first, it was only static. Random noise, whispering through the deep space receivers scattered across the world. But deep within that noise, something pulsed, faint, rhythmic, intentional. Not the voice of a star, not the whisper of a comet. Something different, something structured. In early October, days before 3I/Atlas reached its closest point to the sun, a handful of observatories began reporting anomalies in the 1,420 megahertz range, the hydrogen line. That's the universal frequency scientists have long believed any intelligent civilization would use to communicate, since hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. The first detection came from an old SETI array in California, reactivated as a hobby project by a group of independent astronomers. They thought it was interference from a satellite, but when they checked the signal's origin, it was coming from exactly where 3I/Atlas was. The pulses were short, repeating every 11 minutes and 6 seconds, the same period that earlier infrared data showed as a thermal cycle, the same heartbeat. At first, the team laughed it off. Then, the laughter stopped. NASA publicly denied any structured emissions from the object. But 2 days later, internal transmissions from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory leaked to a fringe science forum under the tag hash Hydrogen Pulse. The document included timestamps, frequency charts, and one chilling note written by an anonymous analyst. The signal modulates in prime intervals. It's not random. Prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The simplest possible way to say someone intelligent is here. Within hours, the post vanished. The forum's database was wiped, and the user who uploaded the files stopped responding. Still, others noticed. Radio amateurs across Europe and Asia began tuning their equipment toward the sun, searching for traces of the mysterious pattern. They found it, weak but clear, an 11-minute loop, always aligning with 3I/Atlas's position. Then, Suddenly, on October 22nd, the frequency changed. The cycle shortened. The pulse doubled. As it did, the sun reacted. Solar satellites recorded a burst of microflares, rapid, synchronized eruptions across the surface, forming a geometric pattern. 6 flares arranged like a hexagon around the solar equator. Astronomers called it coincidence. Online, it was called the ignition. Some began to connect dots that shouldn't connect. During the same 48-hour window, geomagnetic readings on Earth showed small fluctuations, almost imperceptible, but synchronized with the same 11-minute cycle. Power grids flickered, GPS signals glitched, and in one eerie incident, a European radio station broadcast 3 seconds of garbled static that analysts later found contained binary data. Binary that, when converted to ASCII, spelled a single word: listen. No one could verify its source. The file disappeared from official archives, though fragments still circulate in the darker corners of the internet. By late October, whispers began spreading within the scientific community. 3I/Atlas might not just be reflecting light, it might be transmitting. Some even believed it was receiving, as if the comet were part of a two-way exchange, using the sun itself as a carrier. It sounds impossible. But so did radio before Hertz, so did gravity before Newton. The idea came from a small research paper buried in an astrophysics journal in 1998. It proposed that stars could act as natural amplifiers for electromagnetic resonance, capable of transmitting information through plasma oscillations. Essentially, the sun could be a cosmic antenna, a network node in a communication grid spanning light years. And if that's true, then 3I/Atlas isn't sending a message to us, it's sending a message through us. NASA's silence only fueled the fire. On October 27th, as the comet approached its perihelion, the agency quietly shut down public data streams from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. The official explanation: system calibration. Unofficially, it was the same day a strange anomaly appeared in high-resolution solar imagery. A dark ring, faint but perfectly circular, surrounding the region where the flares had erupted days before. It lasted only a few hours. Then it faded. A Russian astrophysicist leaked a single frame from the observation. He called it the halo. Theories exploded. Some said it was a magnetic echo, a ripple caused by 3I/Atlas's passage. Others claimed it was a portal, the activation of something within the sun that's been dormant for millennia. But perhaps the most disturbing possibility came from a team of researchers at the University of Toronto who ran Fourier analysis on the leaked hydrogen line recordings. They found harmonics, overtones that shouldn't exist in natural emissions. Each one was spaced exactly in ratios consistent with the Fibonacci sequence, nature's code, the same pattern found in the growth of shells, galaxies, hurricanes, and DNA. It wasn't just sound, it was language, not in words, but in rhythm, a universal structure embedded into the pulse of energy. If the signal is real, who or what is transmitting it? Is 3I/Atlas the sender, or just the key that unlocked something larger? Some independent researchers believe the object acts as a resonance trigger, a device that interacts with stellar plasma fields to awaken a dormant frequency, a signal buried within the sun since its formation, waiting for a specific alignment, a specific visitor, to bring it back to life. When you think about it that way, the idea of coincidence becomes terrifying, because every parameter, its angle, its speed, its timing, fits too perfectly. It arrived at the moment when human technology was finally capable of noticing. It came when our species was listening, and maybe that's why it came at all. Governments across the world began issuing quiet orders to restrict solar observation data, citing security and misinformation concerns. But the truth spreads faster than censorship. Fragments of code, snippets of the hydrogen pulse, even spectrograms of the mysterious 11-minute rhythm, they're all archived, replicated, mirrored endlessly online, and among those fragments, one stands out. A faint modulation pattern that, when converted into a spectrograph image, looks disturbingly human. Two intersecting waveforms, one like a heartbeat, one like a voice. When the signal is slowed down 100 times, the waveform produces a sound. It's low, deep, almost like a word, a whisper. Some claim it says, return, others, home. Of course, skeptics have every reason to doubt it all. Data corruption, noise interference, pareidolia. But even the skeptics are uneasy. Because what if none of it is coincidence? What if, for the first time in recorded history, something ancient, something not of our making, is using the sun itself to speak? And what if the reason we're hearing it now is because we were meant to? As 3I/Atlas continues its dive into the solar inferno, the pulses grow weaker, slower, almost like a fading heartbeat. Scientists say the comet will disintegrate within days, leaving nothing behind. But some believe that's not the end. They believe its transmission complete. If the sun truly received a message, what happens next may not come from the sky at all. It may come from here, from the light that touches every living thing, from the pulse that connects all life, all thought, all time. Because maybe 3I/Atlas didn't come to speak to us. Maybe it came to wake something up. By the time 3I/Atlas reached the inner corona of the sun, most of it was gone. Its icy shell vaporized, its fragments scattered into plasma, its light fading into the brilliance of the star itself. Officially, the comet ceased to exist on October 30th, 2025, at 14:22 UTC. But in the hours that followed, something impossible happened. Solar sensors across multiple satellites registered a brief, simultaneous flicker, a perfect, synchronized dip in brightness, lasting exactly 11 minutes and 6 seconds, the same cycle, the same heartbeat. Then, just as suddenly, the sun returned to normal. NASA dismissed it as an artifact of sensor overload. ESA called it a localized data error. But behind closed doors, someone at the European Solar Observatory wrote 3 words in a confidential report. The pulse responded. For days, the world continued unaware. No breaking news, no panic, no revelation. The story of 3I/Atlas faded like dust. But in the shadows of the internet, in encrypted forums and message boards, people began to notice coincidences, subtle, quiet changes. The global magnetosphere shifted slightly, less than 1%, but measurable. Earth's ionospheric resonance, the Schumann frequency, fluctuated for the first time in recorded history. Communication networks experienced short, synchronized drops in data flow, as if the planet itself had blinked. And then came the dreams. All over the world, people began reporting the same thing: a recurring image, a sphere of light, surrounded by 6 arcs, suspended in darkness. It would hover silently, then dissolve into a single phrase, not spoken, but felt. Remember, psychologists called it mass suggestion, the human mind projecting meaning onto chaos. But chaos does not synchronize, and dreams do not share coordinates. The phrase appeared elsewhere too. Across social media, in corrupted lines of code, in random AI-generated text streams, in stock market datasets, always the same hidden string, repeating in binary. 010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010. Coincidence or message? If 3I/Atlas was transmitting through the sun, perhaps the signal didn't stop at space. Perhaps it spread through light, through electricity, through the invisible networks that connect our world. Maybe we're already part of the transmission. In 1977, when the first interstellar radio anomaly, the WOW signal, was detected, it lasted for 72 seconds and was never repeated. For decades, scientists debated its origin. Now, nearly half a century later, 3I/Atlas arrived from the same direction, carrying the same frequency pattern, the same rhythm, the same silence after. One theory suggests the message wasn't meant to be understood immediately. It was meant to seed something, a pattern, a resonance that would unfold slowly within human consciousness. A kind of awakening not through words, but through recognition. Because to remember is not to learn something new. It's to realize you already knew it. Ancient cultures described humanity's birth as a second beginning. That phrase, found in Mayan codices and Sumerian tablets, has long puzzled historians. But what if it wasn't metaphorical? What if it referred to something cyclical, a reset triggered by cosmic events? In the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, the gods speak of creating mankind from the light of a returning star. In Hindu texts, it's written that Agni, the fire of the heavens, will descend once more to restore memory to the sons of men. And in early Greek fragments, the philosopher Philolaus wrote of the counter-earth, a hidden body that passes the sun unseen, cleansing the world with fire and light. For centuries, these were myths. Now they sound like prophecies. After the disappearance of 3I/Atlas, an independent observatory in Japan released one final spectral analysis before being ordered offline. It showed a new emission line in the sun's light, faint, stable, previously unrecorded. It wasn't part of hydrogen or helium, it was something else, an element, or perhaps an energy state, unknown to physics. They called it the Atlas line. It repeats every 11 minutes. It hasn't stopped since. Some say it's nothing, a harmonic resonance within the sun's magnetic field. Others believe it's the continuation of the message, a signature left behind by the visitor, still whispering through the light that touches our world. If so, then every sunrise carries a fragment of it. Every photon hitting your skin contains a piece of that pattern. We are all now illuminated by it. Conspiracy communities have turned 3I/Atlas into myth overnight. Some claim it was a warning, that humanity is approaching a cosmic threshold we aren't meant to cross. Others think it was a calibration event, a way to awaken dormant frequencies within Earth itself. And the most daring voices whisper something stranger, that 3I/Atlas didn't come from another civilization at all, but from us. From a version of humanity far older, long erased, who once reached the stars and left messages for their descendants. Seeds scattered across time. Maybe the object's trajectory wasn't random. Maybe it was a return home, a reminder of who we were before forgetting. Skeptics laugh, as they always do. They say human imagination bends reality until it fits belief. They're right. But belief also bends reality in return. And whether or not 3I/Atlas was a machine, a messenger, or merely ice and rock, it changed something fundamental. It reminded us to look up again, to ask questions that science alone cannot answer, to feel wonder in the unknown. Because in that thin line between data and myth, where silence hums louder than explanation, something extraordinary hides. Maybe that's where the truth lives. A week after the comet vanished, a small group of engineers monitoring solar neutrinos detected a slight phase shift in their detectors. Neutrinos, the invisible particles that pass through everything, even us, had changed frequency. Not by much, but enough to notice. And within that noise, buried deep in the background, was a repeating modulation. Prime numbers. Again. One researcher reportedly whispered, "It's answering." If 3I/Atlas carried a message, maybe it was never meant for our ears. Maybe it was meant for the sun, and we were simply close enough to overhear. Maybe it was an activation key, turning our star into a beacon, calling out across the void to others like it. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the constellation Lyra, another ancient traveler is already turning its gaze toward our light. Every beginning has an echo, every message an answer. The question is whether we'll recognize it when it comes. Because maybe the signal was simple all along, a single idea carried across eternity. You were never alone. Tonight, as the sun sinks below the horizon and the first stars begin to appear, remember that one of them once sent something here, a fragment of its past, a whisper of its purpose, a memory older than humanity itself. It came through the darkness, crossed the cold between stars, and dove into our sun just to leave us light. And maybe that was the message. Not destruction, not warning, but remembrance. A reminder that creation is infinite, that time loops, that consciousness survives the fire. We call it 3I/Atlas. But maybe, in some forgotten language of the stars, it has another name. Maybe it simply means we're still here.